flawless victory.
Hey guys, this is Curse of the Dead Gods, a hack and slash roguelike that takes some of the best elements from games like Dead Cells and Slay the Spire and mashes them together to produce a game that looks and plays great. Movement is very deliberate, making you really commit to your attacks, which feel meaty and very satisfying. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, from curses to the way light works, to the different weapons and runes that you use to upgrade your stats throughout the run. In this video, I'm gonna tell you all about this promising early access game, but before we start, do leave a like or comment if you enjoyed the video, and hey, maybe check out the other videos on the channel and subscribe if you like them. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps me make more videos like this one. I know it's annoying for me to ask, but the struggle is real. Okay, let's start talking about gameplay. You start each run with two weapons, a sword for your main hand and a gun for your offhand. Offhand weapons are different from main weapons, and you can chain their attacks and finishers pretty much as you'd expect. You can mash, main attack, main attack, main attack, and then finish off with your offhand and stuff like that. The other starting item is a torch, which is essential to discover traps and enemies since visibility is very limited when there are no light sources. The torch can also be used to light up braziers or to set enemies on fire, which is actually a pretty neat way to get a light source while you're fighting. There's another slot for two-handed weapons, which are very powerful, but you don't start with one by default. There's very limited healing in this game. There's no Estus Flask or healing potion, so getting hit is very punishing and even unsettling. The animations go a long way here, making every single blow look and feel extremely severe. There's also a stamina meter and a curse meter. Stamina is consumed when performing finishers with your weapons and while dodging or parrying. There is no way to guard or defend to mitigate damage other than avoiding damage completely. Dodging is fairly lenient, but the parry window is pretty small. Parrying or dodging perfectly will both regenerate stamina, and given how scarce healing is in the game, mastering both moves is pretty much a necessity to make sure that you survive your runs. Parrying will also weaken and stun enemies for a brief period of time, providing a small window to deal massive amounts of damage. The curse meter fills up every time you enter a room or by getting hit by certain enemies and whenever you buy something. Once the meter is full, you go into a short cutscene and you gain a curse. Curses can be removed when killing a boss and will always provide a negative effect, but might also provide some positive effects, such as a longer dodge that can't replenish stamina or gaining health and curse instead of gold. So far, I haven't encountered any curse that has made me feel like I was instantly doomed, and some can change the way certain elements of the game work in some really fascinating ways. Apart from weapons, the other ways to upgrade your character are runes and relics. Runes provide passive bonuses to damage, health, and gold finds, and are kinda similar to the scrolls that you find in Dead Cells. Relics, on the other hand, are like beneficial curses that work as gameplay modifiers. Some will provide healing when dealing critical hits, or convert damage you take into gold, or reduce the amount of maximum damage that you can take with any one attack. Some relics, especially those that provide ways to get health back, are incredibly powerful, while some can feel pretty useless. You can choose your path, so you're almost completely in control of which upgrades you're going to get, or at least which types of upgrades you're gonna get, but there's also a way to re-roll shops to make sure that you get the items you want by using the equivalent that this game has of souls, which in this case are skulls that drop from some enemies at random. That's a pretty neat way to provide a way to grind towards an OP build if you want. Lastly, there are permanent upgrades that you can unlock between runs that will provide different types of benefits and aids for your next adventures. The enemy design is great, and there are some pretty cool interactions like friendly fire going on, which I think they really need to delve deeper into. Some of the enemies can teleport, and you can even force them to do so by setting them on fire, which is very neat. Speaking of fire, bats are afraid of your torch and will flee whenever you're using it, which is also really cool. And I think if they delve deeper into more gameplay interactions such as those, the results could be incredible. The boss battles are well designed and interesting, and most importantly, they deviate in behavior from most of the enemies that you encounter in the game, which makes them fairly unique and exciting. In terms of graphics, the game looks really crisp and has an art style that I really enjoy. There's this really cohesive look to everything, and I'm really digging the Mayan aesthetic, which makes the game feel pretty different since it's fairly unique, and I can't wait to see what the other temples will look like. There's also a lot of potential for creativity with the rooms and traps, which is really good. Overall, all of this adds up to a very solid and impressive foundation. Exploration is interesting and rewarding, some of the weapons can feel amazing, and the way that you can use traps against enemies is extremely rewarding. There are several hidden rooms that you can find in every run to get more gold or upgrades, but you generally need an enemy to trigger an explosion to get access to those rooms, so there's a risk-reward kind of situation going on with the exploration, which I find very interesting. Combat is well done and feels satisfying, but not perfect. You can get stuck on enemies while trying to dodge, which is fairly annoying, and there's not enough weapon variety. Same goes for enemies. There's around 6 or 7 different enemy types so far, so not too much to learn in terms of attack patterns and weaknesses. Room variation is also kind of lacking. I think I've seen almost every room there is, to the point that walking into a room I can tell where the spikes are, which direction I can go, where the hidden rooms are, and I haven't even gotten to the third boss yet. And that's kind of the recurring theme in terms of my thoughts on the game. There needs to be more, but that's not a bad place to be. Needing less would be really bad, but everything in the game ranges from fairly good to absolutely excellent. And considering that this is early access and the roadmap that they've published promises more of everything I've mentioned, that's very promising. But there are also some changes that I think need to be made for this to reach its true potential. Some of the existing weapons, like hammers and swords, feel and play very similar to each other. So even though they are technically different weapons, they don't really provide a fundamental difference in the gameplay experience. Weapons in general, I think, lack character. I love using this spear, which is a two-handed weapon, but that's the only weapon that I find to be truly fun and amazing. That's not to say the other weapons aren't fun, they are, but they're just lacking a bit more to make them truly amazing and perfect. And unfortunately, some of them, like the bows, I feel are pretty useless because they just don't do enough damage, and the wind-up animation for the attacks is too long. Since you can't dodge to cancel out of the attack animations, committing to an attack is very risky, which puts the slower weapons at a disadvantage, and their damage output doesn't seem to be balanced for that. Take the spear, for example. You can land critical hits with it consistently, which is amazing and can be incredibly destructive if paired with the right relics. It not only hits fast, but you can also hit multiple targets. Bows, on the other hand, fire slowly and generally only hit one enemy, because even if you have a piercing shot, the chances that one enemy will be directly behind another one aren't huge. Enemies tend to group up together and, not go in a line. It's also really hard to target something specifically because of the way the targeting works, and you'll often be firing at enemies that are off screen, so I don't know, it's not the best, and it doesn't feel like it's balanced in a way to compensate for those issues. The same goes for most of the weapons in the game. Very few of them feel actually powerful, but the ones that do are amazing. The poisoned daggers come to mind here. So I think with the right balancing, the right priorities and creativity, Curse of the Dead Gods has the potential to become one of the best roguelikes out there. But they really need to take a look at the best that they have achieved so far and try and replicate more of that. I think as it is, it's a really solid game that can sometimes truly shine and become incredible when everything clicks, when your weapon feels powerful, when the relics are helpful and the curses are interesting and challenging. That's ideally how the game should feel all the time. But it doesn't, at least in my opinion, and I think it's mostly due to the weapons. With tweaks to the weapons to make each of them feel truly unique and powerful and more varied content, this might become one of the best indie games of this year. Okay, that will be all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you played the game, please leave your comment whether you agree or disagree, and if you'd like to see more content on this game, please let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope I will catch you in the next video.